Russia for now. 2 decades on, Russian President Vladimir Putin is still a formidable player in global politics, but has he lost some ground back home? We raise that question because reports suggest the Kremlin is now looking for ways to let Putin stay on in power. Not just that, the Speaker of Russia's legislature has raised the possibility of changing the constitution as speculation grows that the Kremlin is considering ways to allow President Putin to remain in power well beyond the end of his current tenure. Putin's current term ends in 2024. The constitution, drafted 25 years ago, requires him to step down after that. But reports say the Kremlin is now trying to find a way around that. Experts say the Kremlin's tight control of the political system would make it easy to approve changes to the constitution. When Putin was elected to his present 6-year term, he had indicated that he had no intention of changing the constitution, but speculation over the possibility of amendments continues. Earlier this month itself, Putin said that the constitution, and I'm quoting, is not some fossilized legal construct, but a living, developing organism. Putin is now 66 years old. He's ruled Russia virtually unchallenged for the last 18 years. A number of significant changes have been made over the past 25 years, including increasing the presidential term from 4 to 6 years, while that of the legislature's term of office grew from 4 to 5 years. Other important changes included uniting the Supreme and arbitration courts, appointing presidential senators, and revising the list of federal subjects. The possibilities that now emerge are to elevate an advisory body called the State Council to become the supreme authority with Putin as the head. This if he does not become the president again. Then the presidency would be stripped of many powers and the advisory council under Putin would be the final authority. Those are some of the possibilities that are being considered. Let's get in further details now from Fred Vier joining us from Moscow. Fred, you've been studying the Russian political landscape for many, many years now. Are you surprised at all by this report that suggests that the Kremlin is looking at ways to amend the constitution? And B, how likely is it that those constitutional changes will see the light of the day?
Well, I think it's very likely. Putin has reconstructed a kind of czarist system, a neo-czarist system, I think you could call it, in which there is, in the Russian tradition, one indispensable man at the top. And he has been that man for almost 2 decades now. He's done a rather good job. I mean, it is a fact. It is the source of his political success that over these 2 decades, Russia has recovered from the Soviet collapse. Its economy has bounced back. It's become a player on the global stage, and Russian welfare or well-being is much better. All polls show it. When you go out in the streets, you can see this is a very different Russia from the one he inherited, and so there's a strong feeling that Putin is the guarantor of this stability and relative prosperity that Russia enjoys. And because of the Constitution, because he cannot run for another consecutive term of office, there's going to be some plan to keep him on in some sort of czar-like position where he might not be as active as he is now, but he will be there. He will continue to guarantee the stability of things, and in a Russian way. It might actually lead to greater democracy. It might devolve powers downward to the parliament more. It may make Russia more self-governing than it was. I mean, Russia is evolving into some new kind of Russia. It definitely is. But I don't think that the feeling among Russian, especially elite Russians, is that they can do without Putin.
I was just coming to that, taking a cue from what you said in between about the mood on the ground. Help us understand, are the Russians in favor of this move? What is your understanding of the impression that the reactions have been getting you so far?
Yeah, I think that Russians will accept it easily. They're used to Putin, and the whole generation, my own son, who is a Russian, has grown up knowing no leader but Putin. And he's an adult now, and there are many like him. And I think that they see it as a natural thing that he would be there. And in the Russian political culture, you have to, I'm not advocating this, I'm just saying it is traditionally an authoritarian one-man type of state. And Russians seem to, they will let go of that rather with great difficulty. So I think Putin has in mind some sort of transitional thing where he will stay in a position of holding down the fort while other important evolutionary changes take place in the system. I think that would be his
then
idea.
Why not let the people have the right to decide that then?
Oh, did I not mention Russian political traditions? For Russia, and I am a person who studied Russia all my life.
Yes.
For Russia, this is a better version of Russia than ever has existed before, but it still has a long way to go. And I think the greatest fear that people have is instability. This is a country where a mighty state has collapsed twice in the last century, leaving almost nothing behind. People deeply fear that kind of collapse, like happened to Tsarist Russia and the Soviet Union, happening again. And that is why Russians, when given a choice, will opt for stability above, unpredictable democratic choices.
All right, and Fred, we are saying that those constitutional changes that are being considered, it is a strong possibility that they will see the light of the day as well. We're going to leave it there for the moment. Thanks very much indeed, Fred, for joining us with those perspectives. U.S. President Donald Trump is considering an executive order that would bar U.S. companies from using telecommunication equipment made by Huawei and ZTE. Reuters has reported that the executive order would invoke the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which gives the American president the authority to regulate commerce in response to a national emergency that threatens the U.S. Sources told Reuters that the order has been under consideration for 8 months now, but it is not likely to name either Huawei or ZTE. The U.S. has alleged that the two companies work for the Chinese government and that their equipment could be used to spy on Americans. Once passed, the executive order will push two of China's biggest telecom giants out of the United States. Remember, this comes amid the trade war between China and the U.S. as well. And top sources in New Delhi, meanwhile, told WION World is One that India is looking at Huawei's offer. This comes even as questions are being raised as to whether India will prevent Huawei from conducting 5G trials or ignore national security concerns that are being voiced. Countries like the United States, Australia, New Zealand and Britain have pulled back from using Huawei's products amidst growing concern over security issues posed by Huawei in Japan, France, Germany and the Czech Republic. Now, the UK has also raised concerns over Chinese telecom technology giant Huawei's plans for rollout of the 5G network. Just today, the British Defence Secretary voiced grave concerns over Huawei's role in the UK's 5G upgrade. So why exactly are countries across the world banning the telecom giant? Huawei has been under scrutiny for years now owing to national security fears. Its close proximity to the Chinese government has led to speculation that Huawei devices are being used by Beijing for spying. Huawei also deals in dual-use technology, which can be used by civilians as well as intelligence agencies. In the past, Huawei evaded sanctions to sell its products in Iran and North Korea. Lastly, some nations are banning Huawei to protect their domestic 5G infrastructure as well. But not all factors are against Huawei. Remember, surveillance risk lies with all foreign service providers, not just Chinese ones. In fact, there aren't any solid pieces of evidence to back spying claims against the giant. And banning Huawei without substantial proof would violate World Trade Organization's rules. Increased competition would then help control the prices of 5G devices. Huawei's latest technology will boost 5G networks, domestic growth and strike a balance between phone makers and operators.